All right, welcome to the Tuesday, June 17th, 2025 regular meeting of the Ann Arbor Planning Commission. For detailed information on meeting procedures, please review the full printed meeting agenda provided. Deputy Manager Kelly, will you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Noting that there are 3 planned absences this evening with advance notice for Commissioner Abrams, Mills, and Norton. Commissioner Lee.
Here.
Commissioner Weish.
Here.
Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Here.
Councilmember Dish.
Here.
Commissioner Weatherby.
Here.
And Commissioner Adams.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Commissioner Weatherby, seconded by Commissioner Weiss. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 3rd, 2025? Moved by Commissioner Hammerschmidt, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Is there any discussion of the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Okay, we're going to go on to reports to the Planning Commission and written communications. We will first start with Councilmember Dish.
Thank you. City Council was busy last night. It approved our modifications to land divisions and to developer-sponsored community meetings, to public notices and public hearings. And the Scioto Church rezoning from township to R4E with conditions passed on first reading. The council has not yet been asked to vote on the site plan, only the rezoning, but they are excited about the site plan because details were shared.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to Manager Kelly.
Yes. Also noting that the development agreement for 630 South Ashley was approved yesterday evening. I would like to share only that there were a number of communications about the Thurston Elementary site in your packet, and I know that there are a lot of community members who are interested in following along with that, and I wanted to clarify that the Planning Commission does not have a role in the review of Ann Arbor Public School property, so any consideration of the use of public right-of-way for this location is going to be considered by Public Services, and they can be contacted at engineering@a2gov.org.
All right, thank you. Do any other commissioners have anything to report? Liaisons, ORC? No? Gotcha. All right, written communications are included in today's packet. We're going to move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on issues that are not listed as a public hearing, and for purposes of clarification, we will have a public hearing for Arbor South. So, welcome.
Hi, I'm Tim Rhodes. I live at 448 South First Street, and I have reviewed the second draft of the comprehensive plan. I was very dismayed that my street and several streets in my area of the Old West Side between William and Jefferson are designated as transition. There's been overwhelming opposition to the transition zoning in the Old West Side, and you did kind of pare it back a little bit, but you retained it in this particular area for no apparent reason. The First Street is particularly troubling for me. I moved to this area onto that street in 2006. I did my research at the time, knowing that the apartments, if they were to change, were limited to 30 feet. But now with your transition zoning, who knows where they'll go? And you also changed the area that is now a parking lot at the corner of First Street and William into hub zoning. That was supposed to be parkland. That was supposed to go to parkland when we had the linear park. To go from parkland to what, a 20-story building is ridiculous. You're breaking your promises made to the people of this area. It is absolutely ridiculous what's going on. The whole area, if you think about the area, if you know this area, there's a natural transition. Ashley Muse transitions from Main Street to Ashley. Ashley is the logical place to start the residential zoning here. But your insistence on trying to get more and more density and more of a free-for-all everywhere is you have this transition between William and Jefferson all the way to Boss School. It's ridiculous. It's not necessary, and I plead with you, please, please change this. It is so out of character with the West Side. What you already did at 630 South Ashley is also ridiculous. It's not in keeping with the commercial sense of buildings in the Old West Side. It's not consistent with Washoe Dairy, Jefferson Street Market, Argus, or a bunch of places that are no longer businesses that were all single story, and you approved 30 feet. When is this going to stop? When are you going to start to really respect the will of the people and the requirements of the historic districts? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak at this time that is present? Mr. Westphal. Hello.
Good evening, Commission. Kirk Westphal, 3505 Charter Place. Very happy that the draft is living and evolving and incorporating lots of feedback, apparently, so that's exciting to see it move along. Other than some quibbles with some of the new language that's been inserted with some of the definitions, especially up front, which I outlined in my submission tonight, I think the biggest remaining thing to deal with is the map. Some of the areas are a little hard to see, so I apologize in advance if I gave some examples in my memo that may not be 100% accurate, but I did the best I can. I appreciate that you all asked staff or the consultant to insert the current zoning map kind of alongside the proposed draft map. And I think what that has highlighted for me, and in my submission, I literally put them side by side and drew some circles on the proposed land use plan map, where parcels that are currently zoned multifamily are now zoned residential or low-rise. And it reminds me of the discussion you guys had about Woodbury Gardens and how I think a lot of these aging communities, condo, co-op, rental communities, are going to be looking at some of the empty spaces. And I can speak for myself, where I used to live in Getty's Lake. There's some extra land, some unused land on the property. And I remember the board joking, 10 years ago saying, oh, maybe we'll, sell it off for some McMansions, because, maintenance costs are going up, the cost of redoing the roads and all these fixed costs are hitting communities with inflation. And I think people are going to be looking at selling off some of their excess land. So I think folks like Arrowwood or any other complex should have the option to do what Woodbury Gardens is doing and earn some money from their unused land and help out their residents in that way, and also provide housing. So I think I would just ask you to look at that map and maybe for next time potentially flip it and just have all of the multifamily indicated as transition, and then see if that makes sense rather than trying to fight for current multifamily to go into transition. Transition is going to taper very gently to single-family neighbors, so it shouldn't be that much of a political problem either. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else present that would like to speak at this time? Do we have any remote callers?
There's one hand raised. Mary Durfee, you have permission to address the Planning Commission for 3 minutes. You may need to unmute. You have permission to speak.
Have I finally got it?
Yes. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much for your patience. I wanted to thank you for acknowledging the concerns that were raised and including them in the plan, but I also wanted to thank you for including objectives and metrics in the 3 categories of housing and neighborhood economic development and infrastructure. Like the commission, I'm very concerned about the demographics that show a decreased number of residents in the 0 to 18 and 35 to 64 categories. I would like to see a metric that shows that the various initiatives that are hopefully successful in growing this group. For example, a metric that shows the changes in the various age groups so that we know that this is working. I'd also like to propose several other possible metrics. Currently, the metrics all focus on the desired changes to the city. However, as I read through the report, residents have raised concerns, which you identify, about maintaining specific characteristics of the city. Making sure that these identified concerns are also explicitly identified and enumerated in the metrics and objectives is critical. I will identify a few, and I will be sending this in writing to the commission. In housing in neighborhoods, there was a concern that housing geared towards students have high bedroom counts that are not suitable or convertible for other household types. A possible metric to allay these concerns would be what are the bedroom counts of new developments. 2, people expressed concern over the impact of increased density on green spaces and the built form. Potential metric could be neighborhood satisfaction metric, which of course is always tricky, with built form. Under economic development, I was very interested in the concern about, and I'm just basically reading these concerns verbatim from the report. There's concern about business displacement, particularly with ongoing downtown development and the introduction of new mixed-use areas. There's particular concern for protecting local minority and immigrant-owned storefronts. These efforts are seen as essential to maintaining a city that is both affordable and equitable. I'm wondering about a metric that could be categorizing businesses by size and ownership and tracking those numbers rather than just looking at the number of businesses. And lastly, under infrastructure, it says the city will need to invest in water distribution and conveyance capacity improvements to support more households, focusing on additional capacity where the highest density will be encouraged. Metrics to follow could be growth without an increase in sewer overflows or without increase in water shortages, which I don't think are the case, but or without flooding, etc. You would know the metrics better than I would. But measured by neighborhood, when I listened to your infrastructure meeting, I don't know, a week or two ago, it was all based on the large aspect of infrastructure. In other words, the capacity of the sewage.
I'm sorry, your time has elapsed. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no further hands raised.
Okay. Give it just a second. Okay, with that, we will close public comment. We're going to go on to commissioner response. This is an opportunity for the commission to respond to or address public comment. Do we have any commissioners? Okay, with that, we're going to move on to public hearings scheduled for the next business meeting. Deputy Manager Kelly.
For your next regular meeting, there are 2 public hearings scheduled. This is for the July 1st meeting. 900 Briarwood Circle, SP 24-0008. This is a site plan for Planning Commission approval, a revision of the previously approved site plan, SP 23-0005, for the large format retailer, a reduction of building size from one 100,000 square foot 2-level building to a 60,000 square foot 1-level building with an adjacent 15,880 square foot small retail building. No other changes to the site are proposed. The zoning is C2B, Business Service District, in the 4th Ward. And the second hearing is 1208 South University, SP 24-0029. This is a site plan for Planning Commission approval, an update to the original site plan that incorporates the adjacent parcel located at 610 South Forest Avenue. The project will be an 18-story mixed-use residential and retail tower. The proposed development consists of 259 rental apartment units and 5,120 square feet of ground level commercial tenant space. The building incorporates storage for 52 bikes and 83 garage parking spaces. Parking and loading have been concealed off the south side alley. This is zone D1, downtown core district, in the 3rd Ward.
Thank you. That takes us right along to unfinished business. This is 2845 South State Street, and for this, I'm going to recuse myself on this matter, given my previous employer. petitioning this. I am going to hand it over to Commissioner Weiss and Vice Chair Weiss. Thank you.
I would like to also remind the commissioners who stay that 5 affirmative votes are required to approve this item. So if you do have concerns about the representation of voices, or you have any hesitation, make sure to keep that in mind as you move toward your vote.
Thank you, Manager Kelly. So we are in 8A, unfinished business, 2845 South State, also known as Arbor South, site plan for Planning Commission approval. This is a proposed site plan to construct approximately 15 new buildings in a downtown-style development around 2 existing buildings at 777 and 789 East Eisenhower Boulevard. New buildings include a hotel, 8 residential buildings, restaurant buildings, and 3 parking structures. The development proposes 93,500 square feet of new commercial space, approximately 150 hotel rooms, approximately 840 apartments or condominium units, including 230 affordable units. And approximately 2,500 vehicle parking spaces. Construction is planned in 5 phases. The 23.5-acre site is zoned TC1, Transit Corridor District. Staff recommendation for the landscape modification is approval, and staff recommendation with the site plan is approval with conditions. And we will start with hearing from the petitioner.
Thank you. Good evening, Planning Commission. We're very excited to be here tonight with you again to review the Arbor South project. My name's Tom Covert. I'm with Midwestern Consulting. I'm here tonight with developer representatives from the Crawford Hoying team, Jeremiah Thomas, Jeff Roberts, and Todd Johnson. I'm here with representatives from Oxford, Jeff Hauptman and Andy Andre. I'm here with design team members from Lord Eck and Sargent, Anna Anderson, the architect, Jordan Sebastian, the landscape architect who's online participating, and then from Midwestern Consulting we also have Ted Hirsch, our civil engineer, and Mike Cool, the traffic engineer, participating virtually. Since our last meeting, we've been working very collaboratively with city staff and stakeholders to improve the project. There have been continued collaboration and discussions revolving around the parking structures, the transportation and pedestrian circulation, the sustainability, solid waste, landscape conformance. The design team had submitted revised plans May 22nd and also submitted requests for landscape modifications. These revised plans and landscape modification requests have been reviewed by staff, and comments provided by planning, engineering, fire, solid waste, and transportation. This leads us to our respectful request tonight for conditioned approval of the site plan and approval of the landscape modifications. But before we get into that, let's talk about, before we get into the plan changes, let's talk a little bit about the development plan for the project, kind of a refresher. We're 17 structures and 7 blocks, creating urban fabric where there hadn't been urban fabric. These new facilities encircle a central public plaza, which will act as the heart of this new neighborhood where there was once a sea of parking. There will be commercial, retail, and office space encircling the plaza. This includes 3 jewel box buildings fronting onto the plaza. The project will contain a mix of housing types, as mentioned in summary of our project here just a second ago. The hotel, there will be a hotel anchoring the site, A1 building shown there at the corner of Eisenhower and South State Street. And then we're proposing pedestrian and bike linkages with connections to those links at our periphery of our project, and embracing a mix of transportation opportunities. You'll recall at our last meeting seeing imagery like this from the design team that developed a number of images similar. This is a look across our, what we call Main Street, across the plaza and towards the B1 block of buildings. You'll recall we talked about parking. The project will include 3 parking structures integral to the development. We discussed our per unit parking count being less than that of other projects. Mobility, bikes, pedestrians, and transit. is very important to the project. We are sharing in this graphic the connections of various types of transportation modes incorporated into the project. Some of these were added or defined in our last submittal. We are filling gaps in the pedestrian connectivity with sidewalks proposed around the development blocks, connecting walks along South State Street, connecting walks to East Eisenhower, and adding bike lanes along Boardwalk and through our site in our northern access route. So we will now connect bike lane from Boardwalk through the site and then through our north access route. The project now incorporates pedestrian crossings across Boardwalk at our 2 curb cuts to the east of the site. The developer is in agreement on the west side of our site to work with the transportation team in adding a traffic light and pedestrian crossings across South State Street to aid in pedestrian permeability to the west side of South State Street. That means there'll be a crossing at Oakbrook, a crossing at Arbor South, and then a crossing at Eisenhower. We continue to propose space for upgrades to the public bus transit along South State Street and East Eisenhower for future super bus stops. With this recent submittal, we are requesting a landscape modification, something we had not done with our previous submittals. Our ask for the deviation is a deviation from the vehicular use area and screening, subsection 5.20.3b, the interior landscape island and vehicular use areas. The reason, the VUA for Arbor South, as defined by code, does not act like a parking field. But we have vehicular and pedestrian access, amenity space, pedestrian space, and parallel parking. This is dissimilar to a conventional parking lot, which the ordinance aims to reduce pollution and thermal heat island effect. The project does not have parking fields. As you can see here, our vehicular use area is identified in the gray hatched area. It has linear spaces with access drives, parallel parking, and amenity and pedestrian space. This is similar to public road right-of-ways and private road easements. The design team took cues from the DDA design manual and was intentional in including amenity space, pedestrian space, parallel parking, landscape space, just as suggested in the DDA design manual. The solution or justification for the landscape modification to that subsection 5.203b, the interior landscape islands and vehicular use area, our project has 100,686 square feet of vehicular use area, as we had highlighted in the previous slide, the gray area. We're serving 135 surface parking spaces with this. So what's happening is, in order to get vehicular access through our site to the parking structures and for the parallel parking, we're having more access than we are parking. And what you might see in a traditional parking lot with 2,600 spaces is over 780,000 vehicular use area. So much more condensed, centralized, massive paving. Our project VUA area at the 100,686 square feet would require 6,712 square feet of islands and 27 trees. We are proposing 4,549 square feet of islands, 21 trees. Those are the dark blue circles shown on this graphic here. By being intentional and thoughtful with the design, we are accomplishing the intent of the code by including 61 additional trees, the light blue trees in this graphic, along the access drives for a total of 82 trees. That is, so we have 61 light blue trees, and we have the 27 VUA trees, but together there's a total of 82 trees working to meet the requirement of the 27 trees. I'll also add too here that the other trees that are indicated on this plan, the yellow mitigation trees and blue VUA trees, address the total VUA area of the site. When possible, we've also included rain gardens in the streetscape, sorry. Let me take a minute. Where possible, we've included rain gardens in the streetscape where it didn't conflict with public utilities and easements. So one of the challenges we have is we have an existing site with existing utilities and easements, and we're challenged by incorporating those spaces for the rain gardens. However, further, our project does incorporate best management practices for stormwater management that include elements that treat quantity and quality of stormwater. That includes infiltration. We had a couple of comments in the reporting that came back to the Planning Commission about transportation, and a couple of things that we wanted to point out. There was a comment about MMTIA finding trip generation is underestimated and overly discounted. Our study contemplates full build out of the project over a number of years. Our information in our report and our traffic counts work with current occupancy of the offices that exist at 95%. So we're utilizing current traffic counts and planning for the future with regard to the full build out of the project. Another thing that was mentioned in the traffic control plan was that, or review of the plan, was that we weren't addressing traffic control measures, but I just want to reiterate, the plans that are before you tonight do include indicating that the developer is interested in participating in a proposed traffic signal around South State Street at their main entry there that will aid in vehicular transportation and will also provide the permeability for the pedestrians to cross South State Street. So we look forward to the opportunity to continue that conversation about transportation and include that in the development agreement.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I've added another 10 minutes to the clock. Does that sound okay, Mr. Vice Chair?
Yes, thank you so much.
I don't think I'll need the full 10 minutes.
We appreciate it.
You saw in the report that staff recommended conditioned approval. The development team and design team respectfully request that contingent approval. As noted in the report, the outstanding comments of the engineering review number 4 to be addressed. We're confident that we can address those through construction plan and detail engineering process. They would like us to address solid waste comments. As recently as last Friday, we met with the solid waste team and determined that we may be overestimating our solid waste needs, and as such, we would be looking to better address that with a plan revision. They would like us to address to the satisfaction of the planning manager and forestry, comments regarding natural features. We've, as recently as this week, a couple of times spoke to planning and forestry and have good direction so that we can satisfy those comments. And then with regard to the multimodal traffic impact assessment, we agree that we will continue to work, and we've been in communication with city staff and administration to work towards an amicable outcome and can include those elements in the development agreement. So thank you for your consideration today. We look forward to your questions and your action.
Thank you. We'll move now to staff presentation with Planner DeLeo.
Thank you. I think that Mr. Kober did a great job explaining the background of the project. Our staff report focuses on what's happened since our April 15th staff report. As mentioned, we did receive revised plans and we were able to review those plans. Overall, a little cleanup is necessary, but the plans do or will comply with all the standards of approval for site plans. What we found was in our planning review, it passes with conditions, clarification, and some confirmation on things related to natural features present on the site and proposed to be impacted is required for the actual approved site plans. So that is documented correctly. They have over mitigated, and so this is why we are proposing conditional approval if we perhaps would not have if they had under mitigated. Regarding public works, cleanup items included demonstrating on the plans the space necessary for solid waste. They have it, just needed to include some better graphics. Engineering has some detailed items, things along the lines of changing notes and labels and adding more labels and such. The urban forestry review found that the proposed site plan does fail in that it does not comply with the vehicular interior landscape islands required in vehicular use areas, but a landscape modification can serve that function, and with a landscape modification, the plans would comply. And finally, our transportation engineers did look at the site plan and the MMTIA, and their review is still ongoing. Preliminary comments are provided in the staff report, and Mr. Covert mentioned them as well. The MMTIA found that the trip generation may have been underestimated or overly discounted. The level of service at the site exits would be well below the acceptable thresholds for delay. Traffic control measures would address this. I think that final control measures would be reviewed and approved by transportation, but it seems like everything is on the right direction. The criteria for review of a multimodal transportation impact analysis is provided in code, and it states that plans that will result in lower multimodal levels of service may be denied, but it does not say shall, until improvements are scheduled for construction. And it sounds that we are, and some improvements may be forthcoming. Their final comments are, however, pending. Regarding the landscape modification, it is provided in section 530.1 that modifications to certain parts of section 520, including 520.3 vehicular use areas, may be approved as part of a site plan approval. This request has been made to address the urban forestry natural resources review. In summary, the request, the staff report talks about a summation of the request, and the original documents were attached in the packet. As mentioned, it requests modification to subsection 520.3B, interior landscape islands in vehicular use areas. I think that Mr. Covert's numbers are much more accurate than mine, and I think that reflects the ongoing work that has been done to the landscape plan. But in general, the pavement, most of the pavement on the site is considered vehicular use area. They are not private streets. They are not alleys or service drives. They are, by definition, vehicular use areas. But as you can see, they don't look like a traditional parking lot. But as a vehicular use area, they're required a certain ratio of interior landscape islands. And I think we all probably know what those mean. The islands inside of a parking lot of a grocery store or a shopping center or a mall. The islands are supposed to be about the size of a parking space, 9 by 18, and one tree is supposed to be planted in each island. Larger parking lots with more amount of these islands then need to also use some islands as bioretention areas. And as mentioned, the requirements are intended to shade the asphalt. It shades, it addresses thermal heating of the environment, reduces pollution, negative impacts on stormwater runoff, also makes it look a little more aesthetically pleasing. The site plan, and again, Mr. Covert had better numbers, but the site plan does propose landscape islands, and they do propose a lot of trees. They just don't meet the minimum thresholds of numbers required. The modification would be to allow, in summary, fewer square feet of islands to allow what they have proposed, and the required number of trees in each of those islands that they have proposed, and then more trees to essentially offset the lack of island square footage or impervious surface square footage. And as mentioned, applying these normal requirements is challenging. A lot of it has to do with there are not many places where you can project an island. They have added their landscape islands at every corner, pretty much. But the parallel islands don't function as islands, but there are landscaping throughout the site. So they do provide all the shading that's necessary. The square footage of vehicular use area on the site is relatively high. But it's not as a sea of asphalt. It is very linear. It's not very wide in the big picture compared to things. So a tree here is going to perhaps go a longer way for shading and than one tree in the middle of a more classic parking lot. The standards of approval for landscape modification are that the modifications are consistent with the purpose of the landscaping, screening, and buffering section, that the eligibility and required conditions are met, and they are eligible because they are in a special parking district. The TC1 is considered a special parking district. And justification is provided for consideration. And there's a summation in the staff report as well as the original documents have been provided. So all of the standards have been met. Staff have put forth a motion in the staff report, and it essentially recommends approval of the plans dated May 22nd with the landscape modifications as proposed, with 4 specific conditions, subject to verifying that the comments are resolved and documented pursuant to engineering, solid waste, planning, and transportation engineering. If I did not say it before, I'll repeat myself that we recommend approval of the landscape modification and the site plan. I'm happy to answer any additional questions, and I know that most of the audience is also the development review team.
Thank you, Planner DeLeo. We'll move now to a public hearing. This is an opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on this item. We'll first hear from those participants here in the chamber, and then we will hear from remote participants. To speak remotely, press *9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature in Zoom. For phone access, call 877-853-5247 and enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of their phone number or by name for Zoom users. You will hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please ensure you're in a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in the chamber or on Zoom, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present who would like to speak at this time? Hi, Mr. Garber.
Hello, Vice Chair Weiss and everyone on Planning Commission. I couldn't find the May 22nd revisions on stream, so I apologize if a few of my questions really are already answered. It wasn't clear to me whether the petitioner followed the excellent suggestion from Commissioners Weiss and Abrams to keep Main Street free of vehicle traffic except for emergency vehicles. I'd like to see that as well. We learned in April that the 30 condos and the restaurant will have gas appliances. Still the case. What about the hotel? That wasn't addressed. Gas heat for the common spaces. But parking is the big thing for me. This is a great development, but it's really overparked. A transit corridor project shouldn't include 2,600 parking spaces. Mr. Covert flashed a slide indicating that the per unit parking is less than other projects, but I assume that, I didn't get a chance to really see it, but I assume that excludes the 1,500 spaces that are reserved for the existing office buildings. So the petitioner would argue that they're only adding 1,100 spaces to the existing 1,500 or so. But I walked the site again Friday morning at 10 a.m., and I did an exact count. 167 parked cars, plus some construction trucks. They were putting in a new chiller. So 11% occupied, basically a sea of empty parking spaces. So let's be generous and assume the current offices need 400 peak spaces. Add the planned 1,100 spaces extra for the hotel, retail, and residence, and I figure they only need 1,500 max total. The A2 and B2 parking structures alone supply 1,650, and plus there's 135 surface spaces. I don't see any need for the 800 space C2 structure, which is scheduled for 2029. I'd like to see that left off this plan. If 4 years from now, petitioner needs the extra parking, they can come back then for approval. Yeah, I don't know, this is not land use related, but the city will own the parking structures and will run them with the new parking authority. And I'm worried if we approve them tonight, that the developer will have no incentive not to build them because they'll be turned over to the city and it'll be the city's responsibility. I realize that Oxford's current commercial leases guarantee a certain number of parking spaces for office tenants. I don't see that as our problem. They're not being used. It was easy, I think, for Oxford to promise the spaces because it had a basically unlimited supply. That shouldn't be true for Arbor South. Bottom line, I would like to see the plan as given to you tonight. It's fine, except postpone the C2. Leave that as an empty lot or green space for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. Is there anyone else present in the chamber who would like to speak at this time? Seeing no one, Manager Kelly, do we have online participants?
Currently, there are no hands raised. I think most of the participants are an extended part of the project team.
Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. I will now read the motion. The Ann Arbor City Planning Commission hereby approves the site plan for SP 24-0011, 2845 South State Street, dated May 22nd, 2025, also known as Arbor South, with landscape modifications as proposed to Section 5.20.3 Vehicular Use Area, subject to entering into and satisfying all of the terms of a development agreement with the condition that revised plans are submitted within 30 days that document completion of the following items. 1. All outstanding comments are resolved and documented pursuant to engineering review number 4 to the satisfaction of the Engineering Division of Public Services. 2. All outstanding comments are resolved and documented pursuant to solid waste review number 3 to the satisfaction of the solid waste manager. 3. All outstanding comments are resolved and documented pursuant to planning review number 4 to the satisfaction of the planning manager. And 4. Revisions to the multimodal transportation impact analysis, MMTIA, will be submitted and plans modified to reflect outcomes to the satisfaction of the transportation manager. Moved by Commissioner Weatherby, seconded by Councilmember Dish. We are now in discussion of the proposed motion. Who would like to get us started? All right, Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Thank you. Okay, this first question is for staff. Hello. When we postponed this in April, 2 months ago, I just looked back at the staff report, but I want you to just verify. It was so that staff could finish up some reviews, if I remember correctly. We postponed it because there were still like ongoing reviews, right? So there seems like there's still things that need to be reviewed and finished up. Mr. Giant, our new economic development director, when he was here and talked to us a few weeks ago, he made the point that like the city of Ann Arbor has really long and detailed site plan approvals. So like 2 months just went by and we still aren't at a point where it's like a plan that we can approve without conditions. I just want to highlight that seems nuts, and our new comprehensive plan has some strategies, actions in there to like really help streamline the development process, which I think will be good for situations like this. That's all. That's my soapbox. Okay, for the petitioners. So I'm looking at a Google map of the existing conditions, and then I'm looking at the plan, and I just want to make sure I'm orienting myself correctly. It looks to me like most of these roads, Grove Street, Charlotte Street, they're existing impervious surface. Is that correct? So I'm seeing nods. Is the existing surface being retained for the roads on this new plan? I think some might have to be extended out to state, but talk to me about how this road network, like how much of this road network exists now.
So if you're looking at the plan and you see the B1, B2 series of buildings, which is at the northwest corner, there's a section of roadway that goes from the intersection of Charlotte and Thomas that doesn't exist today, but probably had contemplated a roadway at some point in time because of its size and nature and frontage on South State Street. All the other areas of the site have parking or current roadways with current utility easements for water main, sanitary, and storm sewers.
So are these currently private roads?
There are access drives just like we're proposing.
Okay, so they're like easements, basically.
There are easements for
Okay.
access and easements for utility.
Okay. Got it. Okay, the new traffic light that you showed on the plan, which I think that's still in further conversation about, okay, that is then being proposed at State and Grove, which is that existing road area that I can see that's just north of Eisenhower?
Correct.
Which is kind of close to that.
Correct.
Okay. Is a roundabout here not possible? Or was that not contemplated? I'm just curious, since
Sure,
it is so
sure.
close to the State and Eisenhower intersection.
We haven't contemplated a roundabout for our main street, which is also Grove Road and South State Street. We were contemplating traffic signals because when we reviewed with the transportation team, that seemed to be something that they were looking for. When we put on the site this new urban fabric, we might anticipate that at some point in time, we could have streetlights at other intersections too, right? Just like downtown evolved with streetlights at the corners. But a roundabout hadn't been contemplated, being that the signalization seems to be the typical solution for those types of things.
Okay. I mean, I am not a transportation traffic person. I don't know if if that is something that the city would think about when there's these discussions happening with the developer, like alternatives. It just seems so close to State and Eisenhower, and I don't know how much stuff gets backed up.
I'm also not a transportation engineer. I think there's one in the room. I will just say that these things are considered, and this is part of the transportation engineer's preliminary. Their preliminary assessment is probably a traffic control measure is needed. But they actually didn't specify, but they said that some sort of control measure is needed because of the delays. And they are working through this.
Okay.
And if appropriate, I think they would do it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay, I was just curious. The bus stop icon that you were showing right by that traffic icon, is that a new bus stop? Is that a relocate? I just didn't see it on Google Maps.
Yep. So the bus stop that we show on South State Street exists. It's on the north side of the access point with South State Street currently. We are moving it to that same area. Likely it'll be on the south side of the intersection because we have more space there, kind of a plaza area north of the hotel, so that we could have that super stop in the future.
Okay, it's weird it doesn't show on Google Maps. Thank you. Okay, building D1, I'm almost done, I swear. Building D1, right to the left of it, plan left. Is that part of this parcel? Is that a different phase? Is that sort of going to be retained as, it looks like it's parking currently?
It's currently surface parking. It is being used for this project as a staging area for the construction.
Okay.
Throughout the number of years it'll take to construct.
Okay. In the future, could it be developed? I'm again seeing nods. Okay, awesome. And then for this whole landscape modification, vehicular use areas is making my brain hurt. So are typical city streets also considered vehicular use areas? No. But these are not typical city streets?
Remember, they're not streets.
But they're not private either.
They are not.
So they're all considered just parking?
They're all considered driveways or vehicular access.
As a slight primer,
Thank you.
there might be public streets. Public streets serve to access land, and we put street trees along public streets. Then you have a private street, and by definition, a private street serves to access parcels of land. So it could be in a subdivision of single-family detached homes, parcels of land. Could be in like an office complex, maybe, situation, maybe. And then, when you have a single site, such as this, then you have parking lot and driveways that access the buildings. So in this case, the design is like a private street, but it's still a single parcel. And what these streets are doing is just connecting you from the public street to the building front door. They're not connecting you from the public street to a parcel, and then from the parcel is a little driveway. We've skipped the private street part, and we've gone right from, it's a driveway. So, to me, but the code clearly is designed for more traditional shopping center parking lot.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. We do this, we have to do this on other projects, sometimes multifamily projects where there's a little bit of a road network in there to access the various buildings inside, but it's vehicular use area. It could be also with a commercial type development.
So when we're doing the calculations, you're sort of assuming that all of this vehicular use area is counted as parking when they do the calculations to come up with like the number of street tree and landscape. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
In this case, basically, there is a huge amount of aisles and very few parking spaces.
Right.
Actually, it's all aisles to access a couple couple of 90-degree parking or parallel parking spaces. And in another project, there might be a more easy way to insert a few more islands in them. But these access aisles, these parking lot aisles, underneath them have a lot of utilities and have a lot of utility easements. And you can't put trees right on top of the water main and so on and so forth. So they've done as much as they can, but they have encountered a few more challenges and literal barriers than, say, a sea of asphalt without so much stuff underground.
So pretend that these were public streets, we wouldn't necessarily have this same level of landscape.
I've not done the math, but my gut says that if these were public or private streets, then because we don't even require the island component, the impervious, we would have zero.
Okay.
We may have required a few more trees, but they are now proposing even more than that.
Yeah.
So we are probably we're getting almost the number of the square footage of impervious surface in the form of islands. And we're getting more trees than a classic vehicular use area. And we're definitely getting more trees and the mere presence of islands if these were public or private streets.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm good for now. I'll let other people ask their questions, but I just want to, in the case I don't talk again, I'm very excited about this project. I think this is going to do really great things for this side of town, and I think I've said this before, but I really hope that Briarwood kind of follows suit, because I think that this is poising us to be have a lot of energy down at this side of the city. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hammerschmidt. Councilmember Dish.
I want to just follow up on this line of argument. I actually thought the report was really great in describing the problem with our landscape model and fitting to the kind of development that we want in TC1. So I thought that was really interesting, and I'm glad that you pulled out the details. But I'm curious because I was following along with you in terms of where you were talking about, this many trees and that many trees. But the report here says a total of 238 trees are proposed to be planted. And I think I heard you at 21 and 82. And I'm not questioning the report's accuracy. I just want to verify with you that 238 trees are
That is correct. We are planting that many trees in total. So we have the vehicular use area trees.
Right.
We
And
have
then
the
the
trees
access.
that we want to count towards vehicular use. And then we have mitigation trees. There are a few landmark trees we're removing, and we're mitigating those. And then we have public street trees being planted. So on this graphic, the blue trees are the VUA trees and the landscape modification trees. The yellow trees are the mitigation trees, and then I guess it's orange It's kind of red here, but orange on the plan would be the public street trees.
That's great. Oh, thank you for walking me through that. I think I didn't follow the color coding. It's terrific. I mean, it's great to have all those trees because we want people to walk. You want people to walk, and you would like them to have shade.
We do.
So that's great. Could you remind me where the bike parking is going to be?
So we have bike parking that's in a number of hoops that are associated with many of the building entrances. And then we have bike parking that's also included internal to the buildings for people that live there or work there. So we have bike parking in the structures, in the buildings, and then amongst throughout the site
Scattered
near the
amongst.
entries. Yep.
Great. Okay, that will be nice for when I visit. Unlike downtown, which, except in the summer, I feel that we don't have enough bike parking in downtown Ann Arbor. I'm constantly parking it to a parking meter or a tree, which I feel guilty about. So this is terrific. I'm going to see if I had other. I feel as if, and perhaps someone else will want to press harder on the conditions that are left, but I felt that Planner DeLeo's presentation covered, was kind of flagging that pretty much these issues are resolved or on their way to being resolved. Am I interpreting you correctly? So I shouldn't be worried that this is too unfinished and shouldn't.
We do think so. We are recommending conditional approval. A little bit to Commissioner Hammerschmidt's point. We often review, so what you are seeing before tonight, I think, is V4, the fourth version of the plan. Typically, we do present the third version of plans. This project is particular. I believe that this plan set is something like 168 pages. It is essentially 5 site plans stapled together. I would say the plans are, we're talking they're 99.8% complete.
Okay.
We are at a level where you can list on a couple of pages the exact details, circled, the things that need to be corrected and circled. And so it's just that I'm very impressed, actually, that we are coming to you with a fourth version of a plan set that is 160-some pages and recommending conditional approval because they are that close, and we are just down to almost grammar and typos.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. And then I do just want to repose each of the questions that Mr. Garber asked and invite you to respond. So was the suggestion to keep Main Street entirely free of traffic followed? Will the restaurants have gas? How about the hotel? Will common spaces be heated with gas? Will you need to use gas to wash sheets and linens? I think I added that. And then finally, I understand. How come there are so few cars in the parking lot if, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to invite team members up here to maybe answer some of those questions.
So before you do that, can I just add one more of Mr. Garber's questions, which was about the condos? So there was a comment that he made whether or not the condos were all gas or electric. Not to correct it, just to add to the list that you presented.
Yep. So I'm going to address the Main Street that we were talking about closing. So it is the street that's through the public plaza between the 2 jewel boxes, which are A4 and A5. There are existing easements there, which is one of the reasons we need access to the manholes for the sanitary sewer and so on. We do envision that, and please team, correct me if I'm wrong, is being closed down for events and different things that would be programmed through this area. We also use that for fire access through the site and for ease of getting the ladder truck to a number of these buildings for the access to the taller stories of these buildings. So we did contemplate it. We can't put structures in the easements that have foundations or footings. So what we are proposing to do is raise that area so it's slightly elevated, change the material so that you actually see that you're coming to a different spot in the site. And then we've allowed for some closures of that with some of the intersections and intermingling of the roads that we have currently there. Full closure doesn't seem like it's an opportunity for the easement access, for fire access, but we certainly want to treat this as a different space so that it isn't used all the time for access.
I was going to wait until the end, but I asked Commissioner Dish if I could follow up on this question that she raised. So can you talk a little bit more about the raised street? Because you say slightly, and I would advocate for more than slightly so that there's a material difference in a car from the entering that section so that they know that they're now entering a pedestrian section, not a section that is made for cars. And I only make this point because as a pedestrian, as a biker, I am often treated as an object to be removed from the vehicular transit space. So cars tend to get upset that I'm present where the car is. And so I think our concern is largely that a car entering that space recognizes that they are entering a new space, a space that is not designed for them, but is instead designed for a biker, a pedestrian, or more importantly, a kid. And so they have to have caution. So I recognize that you're saying you can't use bollards because you can't put a footing because you have an easement that is underground, but you can put in speed barriers. You can raise that street to make it feel uncomfortable to a car that is traversing through it.
Absolutely. I'm going to use some terms that you use that I think our transportation engineers wouldn't be excited about, but it's really a space we're trying to make a car uncomfortable. So we're taking the ends of it where the pedestrian crosswalks are that go from across that main street on each end, and we're lifting it so that the surface level of that area meets the plaza and the area and space around A4 and 5. There's no curb. So as a vehicle, you're raising an elevation, you're changing a material, and you're driving with something that doesn't have the linear curbing, I should say. But we do have some markers that are going to go down and kind of delineate that so that they don't veer from it. And then each end is amplified with the crosswalk crossing painting and so on. It would be elevated, basically an elevation of what the gutter pan of the curb is to the top of the curb, so about 6 inches.
And that goes linear all the way from the entry to the exit? Okay.
From the crosswalk to the east to the crosswalk on the west.
Okay.
And
so that's, what's something, GG Avenue?
From like 7, 8, 9 northwest corner to the edge of A4.
Okay.
And then it would have pedestrian bollards, just so pedestrians know that sometimes it's, but they're not like, I don't know how to describe them.
Yeah, they're just, they don't have a footing.
Right.
They're not grounded in 18 inches of concrete to defeat a car.
Right. So it would be uncomfortable as a driver. You don't have the linear curbing marking your space. You're elevated yourself, and you're in a space where there's going to be pedestrians.
All right. Thank you for that response. If the other team members can respond to Mr. Garber's questions, we would appreciate it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hi. Hi, Jeff Hauptman. Here to talk about parking. Since work from home, I think Mondays and Fridays have become the long weekend. So if you chose any day to not find cars at 777, it would be a Friday. Should have been there today. The lot is not full because U of M still continues to alternate when people come in and when people come out, but I would say today the lot was probably easily half full. I almost was tempted to take a photo of it just because it's filling up more and more and more as people are coming back to the office. So there's definitely that demand for parking, and it's increasing. But Mondays and Fridays, yeah, your count's going to be different. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're going to have a higher count. Does that answer your question, Commissioner? Councilperson? Thank you. Okay. And then the 30 condos, I don't know if it was in the most recent reports or not, but we did work with Dr. Stultz about what to do there. She asked us if we could just go all electric. We had some discussions about what does the market really demand, right? We didn't want to find ourselves going all electric and then nobody wants to buy these condos. So what we agreed with her was, we'll make it so you can have a choice. Both. You want to go all electric? By all means. That's great. If you'd rather have gas, that option will be available. But we obviously have the ability to go all electric. And as you know, we're already all electric on the other 970 units throughout the complex.
Okay.
Might speak. Jeremiah Thomas, Crawford Hoying. Speaking to hotel restaurant uses, I think in keeping with the theme of consumer choice relating to the condos, our market research suggests that restaurants still largely prefer to be able to cook with gas, and our expectation is that restaurants will likely elect gas in the district. As it relates to the hotel, most of our hotel uses throughout the portfolio that we have are, the common areas are in fact heated with electric. That is a frequent choice as it relates to the hotel usage. Gas use for a hotel would largely be dedicated to things like generators. And again, if there was a Class A restaurant associated with the hotel, then we would expect there to be some gas usage there. But those gas usages would largely be related to cooking and not to heating, and that's true throughout the development at large, not just the multifamily and not just the condo.
Are you the developer of the hotel, or are you getting a sub-developer to?
We are a little unique in that we develop a hotel as well as the rest of the development. We will not manage the hotel, and so there will be some influence from a third-party management company as far as some choices. But yeah, we will be developing the hotel as well, and our expectation would be that the hotel will be, common areas will be electrical from a heating and cooling perspective, and then that, again, gas usage for cooking primarily and for generator backups.
Okay.
Thanks.
I think that was all of Mr. Garber's questions. Commissioner Dish. Okay. You may ask a direct follow-up, Commissioner Hammerschmidt.
Well, I don't even know, this isn't actually a question, this is more of a statement. I think as people in the development industry and planning industry, it's sort of our responsibility to set a tone and push things forward. And I think that, so just, I work for the development team for Veridian. We are all electric. We're putting in induction into our homes. People love it. I mean, there have been some people that are like, oh, I've had gas forever. I thought there's no way I could, and they love it. So I think, like, obviously do what you're going to do. We can't force you to do it. But, like, I think even if you don't give people a choice and you just put in an induction cooktop or range, like, I don't think that that's going to cost you a sale. So just think about that. Restaurants, like, I have no idea. Like, I've heard that in a lot of commercial kitchens, they're starting to move towards induction, which would be amazing. But again, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to tell you what I'm hearing and seeing and experiencing, and, like, anything we can do to, like, push towards electric induction rather than gas, I think is the way we need to be going. So that was my soapbox again.
Any other commissioners? Commissioner Weatherby.
I think just to piggyback on that, you throw in an induction AGA and a free Le Creuset, and I'm in. So I think you're not going to lose the high-end market because you have gas appliances, because they're kind of, it's like marble or granite countertops. They get dated fairly quickly.
But I do appreciate the work on the landscaping and the landscape modification, and I have been hearing, the devil or the angel on my shoulder of like, we make these processes really long, and that's just adding cost to all these projects. And this project has a lot of affordable housing and a lot of housing in general, and it is doing a lot of the things that we want. And right now, it is a sea of parking, empty or full, and that's not great. Especially knowing that University is moving out of WOTO now. That's, we want this spot to be energized, and we want people there, and we want people, and right now it's not going to be like that if things don't change. And I think it's a really important place to have a lot of people. I think it's a good spot to have a lot of people. So I really appreciate your work and your kind of working with us as we work through this kind of new zoning. And, would I love it if you came with less parking? Absolutely. And maybe that will be true in the future. But I think we have to respond to your needs to get this built. And those requirements are definitely they're lagging behind what we would all hope for. So let's see, there was the pedestrian crossing at Grove Street, I really appreciate. I'm not sure if a roundabout would be good there, because I think roundabouts are kind of difficult for pedestrians, and I think that I personally don't care if the cars have to stop at a different light. I think we approved a project down the road. There was no pedestrian crossing. We were actually, we had asked that something be put in, the Planning Commission at the time. There was not, and yes, last week we were driving down and we saw a family running across the street, and it felt very much like not what we want. And so I really appreciate the idea of having some sort of pedestrian infrastructure at that area, because again, your hope is that there's going to be a lot of people and that they're going to be crossing the street to get the bus or whatever. So I do appreciate that, and I think that's pretty much what I have to say. I'm excited about seeing this project happen.
Thank you, Commissioner Weatherby. Commissioner Adams, do you have anything? Okay, so with that, I'll just give you a couple thoughts that I had. So first up, I wanted to say thanks for the traffic light. If we can go back to that slide, I appreciate it that you took that feedback into consideration, as well as the presence of moving the bus stop to the south side of State so that people could access the U of M lot that's at the Ross Athletic Center there. So I think that's going to be a huge addition. It sounds like you added 3 new crossings, is that correct, throughout the site? Did I get that count right?
So we would add the 2 crossings with the light on South State Street.
Okay, so it's 2 there.
And then we added 2 crossings on Boardwalk at each of our intersections there. And then we continue to have the intersections and crossings throughout internal to the site.
Okay, so I wanted to say thank you for hearing us there. We talked about closing a main street. Just again, want to say if you can't do bollards that are anchored, but you can do barriers that you can roll out and sort of keep that, just being mindful of kids with cars, and especially as vehicles get larger, the sight lines are shorter, so therefore they're not able to see, or they're longer, I guess, from the vision of the driver, so they can't see a kid that's close. And given that that's going to be a pedestrian-friendly space, kids darting out into that traffic, just whatever you can continue to do to improve that is just something that I would appreciate as a potential user of this site. The UVA stuff, I think we covered, but I just wanted to note that the reason why we're dealing with this is because these are not city streets, and it's the interior of a single site, which is largely treated like a parking lot. So I wonder if Manager Kelly could just make a note for ORC for us to address this, because this feels like a miss on our part with the TC1. And I recognize that this site is unique, given the size of the site. I know we had to spend a lot of time on the massing of the buildings and the streetscape and how that all worked, and that took a lot of back and forth, and we do appreciate the petitioner's due diligence with us as we roll out this new district. But here's another thing that has come to light that I think we may want to address so that we don't have this. The count of the trees on all of the plans that I see before me are not correct. So there's the 237 that's referenced in the staff report, but on the slide where you count it, it's not 237. So some trees are missing on what you've presented to us, but it's probably present on the site plan, which is completely fine.
Can I explain that?
You can. Yeah, I wasn't holding it against you. I was just noting for those who are counting alongside.
Yeah, I am working with the most current information that hasn't been submitted yet to the city.
Sure.
It's based on the communications we had. We did have a number of trees that we were showing. You'll note that Grove Street, we're relocating that entrance across the street, and we had a number of trees that were proposed to be planted over there, and we're taking those and moving to that site plan and not including them on this site plan.
Sure, so there's about 50 trees missing between those two numbers. The other thing that I just wanted to call attention to, and this is just because we actually read what you present to us, there are different counts of the number of buildings. In one place, it's 14. In one place, it is 15. In another place, it is 16. In another place, it is 17. So we are somewhere between 14 and 17 buildings. You present it to us and said you are presenting 16 buildings. Our staff report notes somewhere between 15 and 17. So I'm not sure if I just saw something and I just overcounted, but in the event that these numbers are not correct, could we maybe figure out how many buildings are coming? Go ahead, Planner DeLeo.
I was just going to take most of the blame for that.
I didn't want to blame anyone.
Yeah.
I just
No, it's
wanted to
okay,
note
yes.
that the numbers were incorrect.
I will say, though, that when you look here at this footprint, you will just see, I think, as one example, you'll see B1 and B2, but two of the wings are, I think, considered separate buildings of B1. It kind of, there are adjacent buildings.
Sure.
If I might.
You may.
If, in the number that I use, I include 777 and 789.
I see. Okay.
And I work with engineers all day, and one of the differentiations is where the firewall is. So like the parking structure on this plan looks like it's part of the B series of buildings. I count that separately.
Okay.
So if you ask a planner, an engineer, or somebody that's building the
I mean, you're setting us up for a joke. Okay.
I was.
They walk into a bar and they ask, what is a building? Okay, any other comments from the commission? All right, with that, I don't want to read the motion again. The motion is really long. So can we move to a roll call vote? Manager Kelly.
Sure. On the motion as presented, Commissioner Weiss,
Yes.
Commissioner Hammerschmidt,
Yes.
Councilmember Dish,
Yes.
Commissioner Weatherby,
Yes.
and Commissioner Adams.
Yes.
That carries.
Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
We move now to item number 9, regular business. There is none. We move to item number 10.
Commissioner Weiss, could we allow Chair Lee to
Oh, I thought he left.
He left? Oh, okay. I was not aware.
I shall pause. Thank you for your caution. I thought he did too.
That might be my misunderstanding, but we'll do a lap.
Okay.
If that's okay.
We shall wait.
Thank you.
Good luck with your conditions. I just want to, although she stepped out of the room, maybe she can hear my voice. Planner DeLeo has done an amazing amount of corralling and internal meetings, emergency or otherwise, to get this to your table this evening. And I just wanted to express my sincere gratitude for her extra effort. As she said, it kind of is like 5 plans stapled together. So there were a lot of meetings late last week, and I just commend her for bringing together so many disparate reviewers to boil these conditions down to what you saw in front of you this evening.
We join your praise. Thank you, Planner DeLeo.
You're out of the room. I said nice things about you.
All right.
I promise.
Going
Okay.
back to the agenda, item number 9, regular business, there is none. Item number 10, other business, there is none. Which brings us to item number 11, public comment. This is a second opportunity for individuals to speak up to 3 minutes on any issue. We will first hear from those who are present, then we will turn to remote participants. To speak remotely, press star 9 if on phone, or use the raise hand feature in Zoom. For phone access, call 877-853-5247, and then enter meeting ID 977-6634-1226. City staff will identify callers by the last 3 digits of the phone numbers or by name for Zoom users. You will hear an announcement when it's your turn to speak. Please ensure that you are in a quiet area and mute any background noise. For all participants, whether in the chamber or on Zoom, please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. Is there anyone present who would like to speak at this time? Seeing no one. Planner Kelly, do we have any remote, Manager Kelly, do we have any remote participants?
There are no remote hands raised.
All right, I will close the public comment. That takes us to item number 12, commission proposed business. Is there any? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion for adjournment. Moved by Commissioner Adams, seconded by Councilmember Dish. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned.